යාළුවනේ කරන්ට් ආවා හෙල්ලෝ ස්පේස් වෑම් කරන්ට් එක ගියා යාළුවනේ කරන්ට් එකත් ආවා ස්පේස් 6 එකේ ෆීඩ් එකත් ආවා අපි ෂණිකයන් ෂණික
We've got the 13 gimbaling engines in the middle, and they're going to be providing the tilt maneuvers and also helping to reorient the booster as it comes back later in today's flight.
Yeah, and when we say gimbal, it's basically tilting or almost
නාඩි
wiggling
25ක්
the
වෙනකන්
engines
කරන්ට්
a
ගියා
few
යාළුවනේ
degrees and in either direction to allow the booster to steer itself, just as you said, Shiva.
And we'll get some great shots later of actually a wiggle test that we perform ahead of liftoff, just to make sure that all those engines are able to control their full range of control authority.
One thing to note, those Raptor engines are completely designed and manufactured in-house. They are, as many of you know that have been following along, they are a reusable methane oxygen.
විදුලි බල මණ්ඩලය I love you ඉතින් යාළුවනේ කරන්ට් එක ගියා
Combustion
අර
means that
ස්ට්‍රීම් එක මං
combust the propellant
ඔෆ් කළා
in
හැබැයි ඒක
stages.
තියෙනවා
We
පස්සේ ඒකට
kind of
මම
pre-combust
බලන්න
them
මොකද්ද
in a
කරන්න පුළුවන්
pre-burner,
සාධාරණේ
and
කියලා
by doing so, it allows the engine to be more efficient, i.e., more powerful.
Facebook එකේ
Yeah.
පැත්තට
Now,
Comment
like
එකක් දාලා
Falcon
ඉන්න
9, the Super Heavy has 4 grid fins to assist with orienting itself in its return back to Earth. We got a shot of them there beneath the Starship's aft flaps. Now, as we talked about earlier, Super Heavy is not going to be attempting a land landing today. But with this flight test, we're still trying to get as much data as we can. We're focusing on the fundamental systems and operations, so that's the liftoff portion. But we are going to try to get some data on how the fins work for that water landing that Super Heavy is going to be making after ascent.
I love that great view of the fins there. Now, Starship, or the spacecraft, is the second stage, and it makes up the top portion of the vehicle. It's designed for carrying passengers and cargo to Earth orbit and beyond. It stands about 50 meters tall, which is a little taller than the Statue of Liberty. It's
ආයි
comprised of
අයිදන්නෙත්
6
නෑ
Raptor
යාළුවනේ
engines, 3
කම්බන්නේ
sea-level and 3 vacuum engines, which are optimized to operate in the vacuum of space. And they provide a maximum of 258,000 tons of thrust in vacuum. Spacecraft is also outfitted with 4 flaps to help aerodynamically control the vehicle's attitude, which you can see those 2 forward flaps there on your screen now. So they help control the vehicle's attitude during atmospheric flight and enable precise landing at the intended location. Now, one thing we got to mention, the heat shields. They are iconic. Starship is wrapped in a heat shield, which is composed of 18,000 hexagonal ceramic tiles designed to insulate the vehicle during that atmospheric entry. And that's really important because
heat
the
shields
temperatures can be as high as 2,600 degrees Fahrenheit. The hex-shaped tiles, like the ones that Shiva and I have, roughly make up about 2/3 of the vehicle. We can see that we have some different shapes. Mine is slightly curved. As you can imagine, it sits on the curved portions of the Starship vehicle.
Now, the one that I've got is a hexagonal tile that's more flat, and it's really used for the flatter structures on the vehicle. And we need a heat shield because when you're coming back in from reentry, we're going supersonic, we're compressing all the air ahead of us. That ends up causing a lot of heating along
වාහ්
the
වදන
surface.
පට්ටම්
And
ෆීඩ්
without a
එකක්
heat shield,
තියෙනවා
it would go straight
ඕබිටල්
into
ටැන්ක්
the
ෆාම් එක
structure.
අම්මට
Yeah, one thing
චොප්ස්ටික්
that's
ආම්ස් දෙක
amazing to me, especially when I first picked up one of these heat shield tiles, is that they're
වරු වරු
so
වරු
light.
වරු වරු වරු
They almost feel like they're made out
හැමදේම
of
හොදී
foam.
සිද්ධ
They're,
වෙන්න
they're
කියලා
that light,
ප්‍රාර්ථනා
and
කරමු
they kind
යාළුවනේ
of sound like it too. And one thing that we do want to mention, in order to reject the maximum amount of heat during that entry, like Shiva was just saying, they're black, and that's because black helps reject that heat that is building up on the exterior of the heat shield.
Now, Starship is designed for vertical takeoff and landing as opposed to taking off and landing like an airplane. And that's because that's really important because we don't have runways on the moon or Mars. Fortunately, at those destinations, the gravity is not as high as it is here on Earth. On Mars, the gravity is just 1/3 of what it is here on Earth, and on the moon,
ඉතින්
it's just
බ්‍රීෆ්ලි නෝට් එකක් දෙන්නම් මේ තියෙන්නේ ස්ටාර්ෂිප් ඕබිටල් ෆ්ලයිට් ටෙස්ට් එක පෘථිවියේ විශාලතම රොකට් එකේ ෆස්ට් අපි කියන මේඩන් ෆ්ලයිට් එක කියලා අද මේගොල්ලෝ මේක සිද්ධ කරන්න යන්නේ බූස්ටර් 33ම ඔන් කරලා මං ස්ටාර්ෂිප් එක ගැන ගොඩක් කියන්නේ නැහැ අද කරන්න යන්නේ ස්ටාර්ෂිප් එක ලොන්ච් කරලා ඒකෙන් පුළුවන් තරම් දත්ත ලබා ගන්න එක තමයි අද කරන්න යන්නේ අද මේ බූස්ට් එක සහ ස්ටාර්ෂිප් එක ලොන්ච් වුණොත් එහෙම මේ බූස්ට් එක orbital launch mount එකෙන් කිලෝමීටර් කීපයක් දුරින් තියෙන Starship එකෙන් ගැලවිලා ඇවිත් අහසේදී Gulf of Mexico කියන සාගරයට කඩන් වැටෙනවා. මේකට නේද තිරස් කියන්නේ. ඔව් මෙන්න මේ අතර කඩගෙන වැටෙනවා තිරස් අතර. ඊට පස්සේ ඒකේ තියෙන වැල්ව් මගින් බූස්ට් එක බූස්ට් එක ඇතුළට වතුර ගිහිල්ලා බූස්ට් එක සාගර පත්ලට ගමන් කරනවා. Starship එක කක්ෂීය ප්‍රවේගයට ගමන් ගන්න නැහැ. මොකද කක්ෂීය ප්‍රවේගයට ගිහිල්ලා Starship එකට කන්ට්‍රෝල් එක නැතුව ගියොත් එතන ලොකු විනාශයක් වෙනවා. ඒ හින්දා weather go, range go, vehicle go, payload එක තමයි පිරණ ගමන් තියෙන්නේ. ඒකයි go කියලා තියෙන්නේ. එන්නේ කියලා තියෙන්නේ. ඔයාලට පේනවා ඇති Starship එකට දැන් 100 බූස්ට් එකට liquid oxygen 176ක් පිරලා තියෙනවා. liquid methane 175ක් මේවලා තියෙනවා. Starship එකට almost methane 197යි, liquid oxygen 196යි. කොහොමත් බූස්ට් එකට කලින් Starship එකට propellant load එක ඉවර වෙනවා. මොකද ඔයාලට තේරෙනවා ඇති බූස්ට් එක සහ Starship එක අතර වෙනසක් තියෙනවා. wow අදන සුපිරියා කුපිරියක් මං කී හිටියේ කක්ෂීය ප්‍රවේගයට ළඟා වෙන්නේ නැහැ Starship එකේ. උනාට පෘථිවිය වටේ 4/3ක විතර දුරක් ගමන් කරලා හවායි දූපත් ළඟ තියෙන සාගරයට කඩන් වැටෙනවා. මොකක්ද උනේ මේක ඇවුල හවායි දූපත් ළඟ තියෙන සාගරයට කඩන් වැටෙනවා සිරස් අතර. සිරස් නේද? කොමරි මෙන්න මේ අතර තමයි කඩන් වැටෙන්නේ. මේ horizontal boost එක එන්නේ vertical. SpaceX එකේ මැසේජ් එක ආවා. මට මැසේජ් කරනවා SpaceX එකෙන්. නෑ මේ ට්වීට් එක ආවා. Starship Rapt engines are chilling down in preparation for lift off. Rapt engine chill වෙනවලු lift off එක වෙනුවෙන්. මේ වෙනකොට සියල්ලම හොඳින් සිද්ධ වෙනවා. අපි විශ්වාස කරමු අද රොකට් එක ලොන්ච් කරන්න පුළුවන් වෙයි කියලා. ඉතින් Starship එකේ අද ඕක තමයි මිෂන් එක. අද ඇත්තටම සිද්ධ කරන්න ඉන්නේ බූස්ට් Starship එක උඩ යවලා එකෙන් කිසිම ලාභයක් එහෙම ලබා ගන්න එක නෙමෙයි. අද කරන්නේ පුළුවන් තරම් මේකෙන් දත්ත ලබා ගන්න එක තමයි. ඉතින් Starship එක ගැන කතා කරනවා නම් ගොඩාක් දේවල් තියෙනවා. අපි කලින් දවසේ ගොඩක් දේවල් කතා කළා. පැය 4ක විතර ස්ට්‍රීම් එකක් කළා. පැය 3:00මාරක විතර සඳුදා දවසේ. ඔයගොල්ලොන්ට පුළුවන් ඒක බලන්න. ඒකේ අපි ගොඩක් දේවල් කතා කරා. ගොඩක් වෙලාවක්. ඉතින් මම Starship එක ගැන continuously recorded videos උත් upload කරනවා. මම මේ වගේ live stream වලත් මගේ ඔළුවට එන හැමදේම කියනවා. ඕක තමයි කේස් එක සුද්දා.
Our Starlink satellites, and that's super exciting because our next generation satellites represent a step forward in Starlink's capabilities.
මේ තියෙන්නේ මේ SpaceX එකේ Starlink satellite එක ඔයගොල්ලෝ දන්නවා ඇති Starlink version 2 satellite එක. ඉතින් ඒගොල්ලොන්ට version 2 satellite එක කක්ෂ වලට ගෙනියන්න ඕන අනිවාර්යෙන්ම Starship එක හදලා ඉවර කරන්න ඕනේ. මොකද V2 version 2 satellite එක ගෙනියන්න පුළුවන් Starship එකට විතරයි. Starship එකේ විතරයි අර ඒක ගෙනියන්න පුළුවන් හැකියාවක් තියෙන Starship එක ඩෙවලොප් කරලා තියෙන්නේ. මේ තියෙන්නේ Starhopper. Starship එක හදන්න මුල් ගාලා තිබ්බේ Starhopper කියන මේ කුඩා පරිමාණයේ rocket module එකෙන්. ඉතින් ඒක තමයි අද වෙනකොට මේ වගේ දැවැන්ත Starship එකක් බවට පත් වෙලා තියෙන්නේ.
150-meter altitude hop. We went up, took a little jaunt away, about 100 meters or so away from the launch pad, used that Raptor engine to fly and actually land. And actually, this hopper is actually down at Starbase now.
Yeah, I love this shot. It's just so fun to see it fly. After a series of 150-meter hop tests with earlier prototypes, the Starship program saw a major breakthrough during a test flight of the vehicle known as serial number 8, or SN8. You can see it there on your screen now. In December 2020, SN8 demonstrated a first of its kind controlled aerodynamic descent and landing flip maneuver. 2 words, belly flop. The SN8 prototype rose to an altitude of 12.5 kilometers or 7.8 miles and conducted a belly flop maneuver, which you see there, during its descent. While it didn't stick the landing, the test was a major milestone in the development of Starship. In fact, we should be able to see that unfortunately failed landing. Boom. It was fun to watch, though.
Rapid unscheduled disassembly, but learned a lot of data. Now, the testing continued on to prototype serial number 9. It's
ඒ වගේ මේ ස්ටාහොපර් කියන මේ රොකට් මොඩියුල් එක කොහොමද අද වෙනකොට මේ ස්ටාර්ෂිප් එක වගේ විශාල පරිමාණයේ පෘථිවියේ තියෙන දැවැන්තම රොකට් එකට පත් වුණේ කොහොමද කියලා මං මුල සිට ලස්සනට සරලව මේ කියලා දෙන වීඩියෝ එකක් කරලා තියෙනවා. ඒක ගිහිල්ලා බලන්න මගේ channel එකේ තියෙනවා ස්ටාර්ෂිප් playlist එකේ. නෙමේ වීඩියෝස් වලට ගියාම ඒක උඩින්ම ඇති. මේ ගිය සතියේ දැම්මේ.
one of the engines that resulted in another pretty
මේ
large
10-9 එක
fireball.
blast වුණ හැටි
But
කියන්නේ.
what was really cool about both of those flights was how much we learned just between serial numbers 8 and 9 and how quickly we were able to achieve our primary objectives in those two flights. In addition to that, we got so much data that demonstrated control of the vehicle in that subsonic regime.
Ultimately, we performed 9 Starship high altitude test flights in total. And then, as you see on your screen there, in May of 2021, SN15 launched from Starbase, reached an altitude of about 10 kilometers, performed a number of maneuvers, and safely returned to the launch site. This was the first Starship prototype to fly, control its descent, safely land, and be recovered in one piece.
And people were cheering like crazy
I was
after
one of
that
them.
test flight. Now, having achieved those successes in our suborbital campaign, one of the next big challenges is for the upper stage when it comes to reusability and surviving the hypersonic, really high heating phase of entry. Combined with the later ability to refill Starship's tank with propellants, the fuel and oxygen, while we're on orbit, that will enable us to have a fully reusable transportation system that's designed to carry both crew and cargo on long duration missions, interplanetary flights, and will help humanity get to the moon, travel to Mars, and beyond in our solar system.
This is all just basically our path of progress, basically an iteration on each vehicle. And that iterative process is a core part of how we work here at SpaceX. We like to test early and often, publicly as well in our case. And that's both for hardware and software. And while it doesn't always go as expected, we learn so much from it and it informs our next attempt.
Yeah, we learn a lot from actually putting the vehicle through flight-like tests. Even the test on Monday gave us an opportunity to learn more about the vehicle into today's launch attempt. And so far, things are looking really good. Now, we are continuing into our countdown. We're about T-minus 12 minutes to go. I think it's the perfect time.
තව විනාඩි 12යි පෘථුවියේ විශාලතම රොකට් එක අපි මෙච්චර අවුරුදු ගානක් තිස්සේ බලන් ඉඳලා ඔන්න අද ලොන්ච් කරනවා ස්ටාර්ෂිප් එක කෝබ්‍රා විල්ලින්නවා හායි කෝබ්‍රා ඇන්ඩ්‍රු ටේට් කෝබ්‍රා නෙමෙයිනේ ඇන්ඩ්‍රු ටේට්ද
tanks on Starship, those are 2 small tanks just underneath the nose of the second stage. Now that started at T-minus 27 minutes. That'll be wrapping up at about that will be wrapping up about T-minus 9 minutes. Now the Starship second stage main fuel and LOX tanks are loaded for flight right now. The super heavy first stage booster propellant loading is continuing. That'll go till about T-minus 3 minutes. We're underway with engine chill as we get ready for T0. And we're also configuring the launch pad for liftoff. The booster hold downs have been unlatched. They'll be ready to retract at liftoff. And the second stage quick disconnect is beginning its configuration for release. The methane and liquid oxygen propellants currently going to the second stage go through that quick disconnect. That's that arm that reaches out from the tower to the base of the second stage. The SpaceX team continues to check in with the Coast Guard. Good news is we've not heard any reports of boats in the safety perimeter as the launch vehicle heads out over the Gulf of Mexico. So right now, T-minus 10 minutes, 40 seconds and counting. Everything continues to go well for an on-time launch.
Now, today's test flight is taking place out of our Starbase facility in South Texas, and that test site has gone through a huge amount of development over the last couple of years.
One thing I want to point out, this is a great view from our drone. Not only can we see the pad, but in the fog, kind of in the distance, in the background and to the left of the pad, you can actually see our
ටිකට කලින් කෝස් ගාඩ් එකේ
which is the
හෙලිකොප්ටර්ස්
other
වගේක්
part
එහෙම
of Starbase in
උඩ
addition to the
කැරකුණා.
launch pad.
Of course, as part
ඒ
of
වගේම
the
නැවත
rapidly
නැවතත්
iterating
දැනුම් දුන්නා
test
මේ
program,
හසාඩ්
we're
සෝන්
also
එකට
rapidly
මේ
iterating
ඔයගොල්ලන්ට
on our
පේනවා ඇති මේ
production
මේ
system
මේ හරිය
to produce Starships
තමයි
and
හසාඩ්
Super
සෝන්
Heavies.
එක කියලා
Last
කියන්නේ.
year, the Starbase team
ඒ හරියට
produced
බෝට් එහෙම
4
දාන්න එපා
Starship
කියලා
Super
දැනුම්
Heavy
දුන්නා.
boosters
දැන්
and 5 Starships, along with their
මේ
200
ස්ට්‍රීම් හැම
Raptor
එකකින්ම
steam
දැනුම්
engine,
දෙන්න කියලා
only scaling up
කිව්වා.
from there, Kate.
Yeah, it's incredible to think that for 2023,
Oh, wow.
production has 5 boosters and 8 Starships going. So
Almost
it's
8 lakhs
incredible. And
බලන්
it's
ඉන්නවනේ.
important to have that system fill in
SpaceX
basically
is
the
streaming.
manufacturing line so that we have product ready to go as soon as we're done with this test.
Yeah, exactly. And ultimately, I mean, we talked about how Starship is an order of
Not
magnitude
the
more propellant, payload, so orbit. But if you're going to go set up a base on the moon or Mars, you're going to need thousands of metric tons of propellants. And so you're going to need a fleet of vehicles that's capable of doing that.
Yeah, one thing to note, Starbase directly employs more than 1,800 employees. It's the largest employer in the area, in fact. And we're very thankful to Cameron County for being so supportive. This is a view from the Cameron County Amphitheater. And there's a crowd there, and you could tell by the energy here in Hawthorne as well that everyone's getting really exciting. I feel my own heart rate going up and up.
I know. It must be really, really exciting to go see this. And I mean, just the sheer amount of power on Starship, you're going to feel it down there when this thing lifts off from the pad. We've actually got a great shot here of the natural surroundings
Wow,
around
bro,
the pad.
8 minutes.
Oddly enough, most of the pads end up being around sort of wild locations like this.
තාම
Wild
මුකුත් ආයේ නැහැ.
locations like this. But coming up on T-minus 8 minutes, I think it's another good time for check-in with John.
Elon Musk දැම්ම 10 minutes to launch
Thank you,
කියලා.
Sheila. T-minus just over 8 minutes to the first test flight of Starship. Currently, we are pressurizing second stage. We are also closing out liquid oxygen and fuel header loads on the second stage.
ප්‍රොපෙලර් ලෝඩින්
We're
ක්ලෝස්
also
කරන්න
getting
යන්නේ
ready
Starship
for
එකේ.
propellant load tank pressurization on the first
Starship
stage.
ප්‍රොපෙලර් ලෝඩින් closed.
In fact, we are just now closing out header tank load on the second stage. Now with the header tanks loaded and closed out, that means we're down to just the first stage to finish loading. That'll finish about T-minus 3 minutes. And at that point, when both stages are loaded, we
Peace,
will have the
peace.
10 million pounds
Peace
of
again.
liquid propellant on board. Now, in the next few minutes, the guidance system will begin its final alignment for flight during a quiet period when the rocket's not doing anything. The automated flight termination system will be armed, and a final TBC checkout will be performed. Those are the engine wiggles, and hopefully we'll be able to see that with the cameras underneath the vehicle.
ඔයාලට
maybe
මොකද
even
හිතෙන්නේ
the
යාළුවනේ?
second stage engines.
කමෙන්ට් එකක් දාන්න බෑ.
There's a view looking underneath the super heavy first stage with the 33 Raptor engines. Now, a reminder as we continue counting down, if we do need to hold, the point where we hold the clock would be at T-minus 40 seconds. We can pause there. Typically in the past, if we need a little bit more time to finish final checkouts or do some pressurization of the onboard storage tanks, that's where we would hold. But currently, we're not hearing a need to hold. So at 6 minutes, 27 seconds, everything looks good. And of course, Kate Shiva, as we get close, we're going to get into the engine ignition sequence of 33 Raptors, and that's going to be something new for everybody.
I cannot wait for that moment. So for those of you that are familiar with how we launch Falcon 9 rockets, you probably know that we light all 9 of those first stage Merlin 1D engines all at once. It's pretty different than what we do or what we're attempting to do today. We're actually going to be igniting those 33
ඒවසේ
engines
ඩේටත් ඉවරණ
banks,
යාලුවනේ
or clusters, and
පොඩ්ඩක්
that
කරගුණානේ
sequence starts at T-6
කවන්නේ
seconds.
Yeah, and the ignition sequence is a little bit different, both in terms of the timing and also the ignition method. So on Falcon 9, we use a chemical called T-tab. It's a pyrophoric material, so that means when you mix the two together, it produces a flame that kicks off that green characteristic spark on Falcon 9 missions. But actually on Starship, we use electrical ignition systems. Many of those are integrated on the ground system here. And the electrical ignition, we start lighting the banks at T-6 seconds, and then over the next 4 seconds, the 3 sets of banks will ignite and eventually bring the booster up to a thrust to weight greater than 1 and hopefully ascend.
Super exciting. Like we said, pretty different from our Falcon 9 launches, and so this will be the first time that any of us have gotten to see this type of integrated test flight with both the Starship and the Super Heavy booster.
As we get into T-5 minutes.
We want to remind everyone
we just
that
passed off
success
T-5
today
minutes
is
bro
only
boys space nerds ටික ඉන්නවා Starship team එක good luck team well done
today. Success is anything that we learn that helps improve the future builds of Starship. If we lift off and clear the pad, we're calling that a win.
A great shot of the pad there. A great shot of
අපි
the
අද දෙදරනවා
quick
දැන්න
disconnect on the second stage. You can see the frost line on the booster where that methane is fully topped up. I think we're just coming up on the last few minutes here of propellant fill on the booster. And that quick disconnect is going to separate away as we actually get into the ignition sequence, but it's providing electrical connections now and also providing the propellants that we're loading into the vehicle.
Yeah. We're just now under 4 minutes until liftoff of the Starship flight test. We've been following along for what honestly seems like days and days now, but really it kind of comes down to years. It has been a long time to get to where we are today. Now, fast forwarding a little bit, we have the opportunity to hold, if necessary, at 40 seconds. And
T-minus
we
3
are
minutes.
able to hold there for about 15 minutes, or up to 15 minutes, and still be able to lift off.
Yeah, and that's a little bit different from Falcon for the propellant sequence on Falcon that we don't have the opportunity to hold. So that's a cool new capability on Starship.
Right now, T-minus 3 minutes, 10 seconds and counting. We got some
මට
great
නම් අර
views from the
සදුදා
drone.
මේ
It's nice that, the
අබර්ට්
fog is
වුණාට
slowly
ස්ක්‍රබ්
lifting.
වුණාට
We
ලොන්ච්
get
එක
some
අර
of the blue skies,
ඒකේ
hopefully
තිබ්බ
good views.
අර
What we're waiting for right now is closeout of propellant loading on the first
ඉන්ට්‍රස්ටිං
stage.
ගතිය පොඩ්ඩක්වත් අඩු වෙලා නැහැ වැඩි
It
වෙලා
should
මිස
be wrapping up here shortly. In fact, it looks like
Very
fuel fill and
excited.
drain valves are coming closed. That
Freaking
means first
excited.
stage is fully loaded. Second stage fully loaded.
අම්බෝ
At
ඉඩොන්
10
පස්
million
දාලා
pounds propellant on board the Starship launch
T
vehicle.
minus 0 in
I
4
want to take
minutes
a quick moment to say that the crowd energy here is electric. I feel
මේ
like it's
ඔයගොල්ලන්ට
Falcon Heavy
පේනවද
test
දන්නේ
demo all over again.
මේ
And hopefully
Dad
you'll
ලක
hear
ඉන්නේ
us
මේ
as we get
control
into the
room
flight
එකේ.
count. But right now, next
propellant
activity
loading
is coming up.
complete
The flight termination system arms at T-minus 2 minutes. Thrust vector control checkouts at T-minus 2 minutes. And then after that, major activity will be the T-minus 40-second gate.
අම්මේ
There's a view looking up at the 33 Raptor engines. There are 20
Bro,
engines in a
purging.
circle on the outside. And as
Look at
Tim
that
had said
Raptor
earlier,
engine, bro.
15 engines on the center. Those are the ones that gimbal.
those are the ones that gimbling වටේ තියෙන විස්ස gimbal එන්නේ නැහැ මැද්දේ තියෙන gimbal වෙන set එකම තමයි
I don't think I've ever seen someone so excited for TBC wiggles.
Love this view. These are the 33 Raptor engines at the base of the Super Heavy booster. I think we can see those wiggles now.
We're currently inside 90 seconds. Next major activity, T-minus 40 seconds. That is a gate, a decision point. We're waiting. Possibility the propulsion team may need a few minutes. Flight termination system is armed for flight. We're getting ready for T-minus 1 minute and counting.
විනාඩිය. Peace.
Next, we'll see as we get
Diguno
past
handy hour.
T-minus 40
කවුරුත් කෑ
seconds
ගහන්න
for
එපා.
final checks of the vehicle.
Flight termination system ඔක්කොම okay. ඔක්කොම go. Propulsion team ඔක්කොම go කරලා තියෙනවා.
Okay, you can see the clock is recycled.
Shit.
Flight director has called a hold. We are
Hold bro.
recycling.
අයියෝ shit.
For the moment, we'll see where they move the clock back to. They could hold at T-minus 40 seconds. They could go to an earlier point. Give us a minute to listen into the nets, and we'll see if we can get you more information to share.
මොකක්ද වෙන්නේ කියලා බලලා කියන්නල්ලු. Almost got there, bro. Shit. Can't. Countdown hold for final launch checkouts බලමු. මොකක්ද දන්නේ scene එක. Receive, I think there is a problem with, I don't know. They will check and say to us. මං හිතන්නේ no idea, like there are hundreds of parameters to go no. එක මොකක් හරි එකක් කවුල් ගියොත් එහෙම මුළු ලොන්ච් එකම ඉතින් රිස්ක් එකකට දාන්න බෑනේ මොකක් හරි තියෙන දෙයක් ඉඳනේ බලමු කොද්ද කේස් එක හැබැයි NASA ස්පේස් ෆ්ලයිට් එකේ උන් කියනවා බලමු මොකද කියන්නේ
and perform these final launch checkouts that resulted in this hold. As soon as we hear anything additional, we will update you right away.
Can you
Yeah.
imagine being that person?
Going to interrupt you really quick. We have confirmation from SpaceX that it was a booster pressurization issue that has since been resolved, and at this point they are working on final purging on ship 24.
All right.
Sorry to interrupt you there, Das, but yes, I can only imagine having to make that call. To be that guy that has to call the hold. But then again, as we've said, scrubs not ruds, or you'd rather be on the ground wishing you were in the air than in the air wishing you were on the ground.
Yeah, and it's always it's good to show their engineering process that they're willing to
මේ
pause
chat
the
එක ගොඩක් අය කියන්නේ
countdown,
pressure
willing
issues
to
කියලා
lose a few
තමයි
minutes here just to double check everything.
Yep, and go ahead, Das.
Sawyer, I understand. No, I understand being safe, but at some point somebody's got to tell it to go. Like, you can only check it so much, you can only look so many times, and at some point the rocket has to fly. It may be today, we'll see, but I'm going to go back to staring at my tracking screen here.
Sounds good. Yes, we should get the clock resuming shortly. From my understanding, I believe it will resume at T-minus 40, at the T-minus 40 second mark. Waiting on official confirmation from that. But again, it appears that any issue they just had in the countdown has been resolved. Ship undergoing its final purge, with the count set to resume shortly here. As you mentioned, this is a good way to test their engineering features, and an important reminder, this is a test flight. So there is a potential for things to go wrong. There are the potential for these holds. So it is important to note that this is a test. So, Ian, there's a lot of things that could come up that we might not expect, hence the unique name for T0, right?
Exactly, yeah. The SpaceX is saying excitement guaranteed for T0. We don't know what'll happen once those Raptors ignite. They especially don't know what happened, what's going to leave the pad. And we are now out of the hold now.
Flight directors, go for launch.
Go for launch. Loop. T minus 30 seconds.
You're counting down. So at this point, we should be, I believe, approximately 30 seconds away.
Minus 30 seconds. Nine, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2. Oh, this is happening.
Booster upper chamber pressure is nominal.
There you go.
Test flight of the inaugural Starship vehicle. Tower cleared. We're into pitch over. Propulsion reports first stage engines nominal. What a sight when the ground cameras at Starbase. We're flying at twice the thrust of the Saturn V heading to space.
Additional signal for this proceed.
We're
Very
throttled
nice,
down
next
and
cue, bro.
throttled back up. Going through the period of maximum aerodynamic pressure.
Next cue. Bro, you wrapped engine. Fuck.
As the velocity
I think-
increases, the density of the atmosphere is decreasing,
Next cue.
lessening stress on the vehicle. The call out. Next cue now.
Next you are about wrapped engine. I think like it. Attack kitara
Continuing
Start
to
it
watch
out,
the
yeah?
first stage as we head down range.
look at that next you, bro.
100 seconds into flight. Our next major activity is going to be
Acquisition
shutdown
signal,
of
Houston.
the first stage. The Houston tracking station now acquiring the vehicle. With shutdown, we will get separation of Starship and Super
Separation.
and ignition of the Starship engines. When Starship separates, we light up 6 engines in a staggered sequence. And if all goes well, those 6 engines will burn for almost 6.5 minutes. Onboard view from Starship. And there's views of the Raptor engines on the second stage as we prepare for stage separation. Now, after stage separation, the first stage will flip and begin a boost back maneuver for landing in the Gulf.
Stage separation. Not yet. Not yet.
Continuing to fly, 2 minutes 40 seconds. Let's get ready for main engine cutoff.
Booster engine cut off.
Beginning the flip for stage separation.
Oh, that is going wrong, bro. Yeah. Oh no! What the? Happened? Bro. Ah, I think they are going to blast that.
As of right now, we are awaiting stage separation,
No, no,
where
no, bro.
Starship should separate from the Super Heavy booster.
Just 1 minute.
Yeah, Kate, right now it looks like we saw the start of the flip, but obviously we're seeing from the ground cameras the entire Starship stack continuing to rotate. We should have had separation by now. Obviously, this is does not appear to be a nominal situation.
Yeah, it does appear to be spinning, but I do want to remind everyone
Starship
that
එක කැරකෙන්න ගත්තා.
everything after clearing the
Shit.
tower was icing on the cake.
Blast. Blast, bro. It's okay, bro. We got the data, bro. Shit, yo. It's exciting end. It's okay, bro. Yeah. අවුලන්නේ අවුලන්නේ.
Everyone here absolutely pumped to
අපි
clear the
ගොඩක්
pad,
data
make
ගත්තා
it
මං
this
හිතන්නේ.
far into the test flight, the first integrated flight of the booster and the Starship vehicle.
Live view there of our
Elon
control
Musk.
center at Starbase, which we refer to as Star Command. As we said before, obviously we wanted to make it all the way through, but to get this far, honestly, is
ඩොලර්
amazing.
බිලියන ගානක් කෙලවුණාට පස්සේ කොල්ල කියලා
Well, if you're
ඉලෝන්
just
මස්ක
joining
පෙන්න්න
us,
ඕනේ.
Starship just experienced what we call a rapid unscheduled disassembly
Shit.
or a RUD during ascent. But now this was a development test. This is the first test flight of Starship, and the goal was to gather the data, and as we said, clear the pad and get ready to go again. So you never know exactly what's going to happen, but as we promised, excitement is guaranteed. And Starship gave us a rather spectacular end, what was truly an incredible test thus far.
As we mentioned at the start of today's program, any and all the data that we collected during the test is going to help us with further development of Starship, and it's going to improve the vehicle's reliability as SpaceX seeks to make life multiplanetary. It's really worth noting that the flight path was designed to be over water and all the air and sea space. Along with that flight path and those surrounding areas were cleared in advance of the test. And of course, we're going to be coordinating with local authorities for the recovery operations.
But honestly, what an exciting morning. Oh my gosh. We had a successful liftoff from Starbase, Texas at 8:28 a.m. Central Time. We cleared the tower, which honestly was our only hope. We cleared the tower, and all the data that we collected all the way through all those Raptor, those 33, although I think we saw
Nice,
3 Raptor
nice.
engines were
Oh.
out. But we got all that data, and we got so far as to hoping to see the Starship, the second stage, separate from the first stage, the Super Heavy booster. And unfortunately, we didn't make that happen, but that's okay. It was the first integrated launch, and honestly, today was amazing.
Absolutely incredible day.
ඒක
We
තමයි
made through a number of those
aerospace
initial,
industry කියන්නේ.
test objectives with
Blasting
getting
and
booster
blasting.
set, getting all the way through the countdown, working some issues
Yep.
at the end. Like really
Totally
fantastic
tagged,
day.
got through the gate at T-minus 40 seconds on the second try. Everything released, the hold downs, quick disconnect arms,
Yeah.
everything moves out of the way. And then we got the vehicle off of the pad, through max Q, all the way up to stage separation, even starting into the prep for stage sep. And then, as we say, a lot of excitement.
Yep. Honestly, my face has had a smile on it since liftoff, and now my face hurts. Now, since we don't have any insights on the cause of our rapid unscheduled disassembly at this point, we're going to end our webcast here. Teams will continue to review the data and work toward our next flight test. But before we go, a big congrats to the
ඇත්තරම් බැලුවොත් දැන් තමයි ස්ටාර්ෂිප් එකට යොලොක් කරන්න පටන් ගත්තේ. දැන් තමයි පටන් ගන්න.
SpaceX and your ongoing support. Till next time.
බලම්.
Start to see it. I can't even talk. I'm sorry. You can see it climb off the pad, and it did kind of a
Control, right, the vehicle's loaded. A good indicator.
Go for the final
As soon as we hear anything,
shock cone
we have confirmation.
engineering thing.
It's a rocket attract.
Resuming shortly. From my understanding, I believe it will resume at so it is for approximately 30 seconds away. 10 seconds down. So at this point, we should be, I believe, approximately 30 seconds away, or 10 seconds.
NASA space flight test we take target. Program first time. shit, nah, bro. Like, that was something else. Yeah.
Wow, the sound from that, unbelievable. We are getting confirmation on that liftoff. As of this very moment, 5 Raptor engines have flamed out. So they are currently running on, that would be 28 engines as we pass through max Q, maximum aerodynamic pressure on the vehicle.
Gorgeous shots there. The vehicle going supersonic through max Q right there. Beautiful shot cone.
Exactly. Again, this was one of the biggest potential stress points on the vehicle. And so far proceeding. And at this point, it is running on 28 of its 33 main Raptor engines. Vehicle continuing up. 6 engines have currently been out on this flight so far. The next major event would be, sorry, correction, 5. The next major event will hopefully be the separation of the first and second stages, the ship and the booster, and a potential boost back burn on that first stage. The vehicle appears to be
Pitch
turning.
over.
There we go. There's another view. So at this point, it is continuing on the flight. Although it definitely appears that engines are out. The last confirmation was at least 5 Raptor engines are out.
You can see the vehicle is seeming to rotate.
Yeah, there appears to be a spin as the Raptor engines appear to continue to be firing. But yeah, this is indeed a noticeable spin that can be seen from our tracking camera here. At this point, we are continuing just to report off of the data that we have at the moment. No other speculations at this point, other than we have the confirmation at least 5 of the Raptor V2s went out on Booster 7, and our cameras are showing this spin of Booster 7 and Ship 24. And again, a reminder, this is a test flight, so there is always the chance that something can go wrong. And that appears like the automated flight termination system has been activated.
Vehicle's broken up there, ending today's test flight, but still a great load of data for teams to go through without a doubt.
Exactly. And again, that explosion that you saw is the flight termination system. We have confirmation that was the flight termination system that was ignited, destroying Ship 24 and Booster 7 mid-flight. We have our tracking cameras continuing to see what we can remaining of the vehicles. There is a look, though, at the team inside SpaceX headquarters in Hawthorne, which, again, a reminder, this is a test. So the fact that it cleared the tower and Stage 0 is still standing, the ground support equipment, I think is a huge success. You can see Elon there in the front of those screens. It looks like it's the Launch Control Center. So it cleared the tower, and the launch pad is intact.
Excellent.
So that is huge, and it made it pretty far into flight. I think those are still significant milestones. Look at that view. We have the fuel farm, the orbital launch mount, and the launch tower intact in one piece. That right there is huge. So even though we may have lost the vehicle, we have proof there that the ground support equipment can be saved, has been saved, and as a result will hopefully mean quicker turnarounds once they figure out what happened with this vehicle.
Exactly. We can see a bit of damage there on the cladding on the tower. Again, does not
කතා ගන්න ගොඩක් දෙවල් තිනවා වචනෙන්න මං ස්ට්‍රීම් එක එන් කරන්න මං ඉක්මටම තව ලයිව් ස්ට්‍රීම් එකකින් එන්නම් මොකද සිද්ධුනේ කියලා අරගෙන දැනට ගිහිල්ලා එන්න මං හිතන්නේ අද රෑම එන්නත් පුළුවන් හෙට උදේ එන්නත් පුළුවන් ඉක්මනට එනවා එතකන් ගිහිල්ලා එන්න let's go